the room. May I recognize his presence and everyone who is around. At this point in time, I think we are moving to the next segment of our meeting today, which is the panel discussion. And in starting, allow me to call on board somebody from the Civil Society for Poverty Reduction. So this person is involved in the monitoring and implementation of social protection programs, including the social cash transfer program, and his name is Mr. Enson Mwale. A round of applause for him. So the next person that I'm going to invite is somebody from the Anti-Corruption Commission. This is Assistant Director, Corruption Prevention, and his name is Mr. Kelvin Siwale. So the third person I'll be inviting is from the Office of the Auditor General. We all know the Office of the Auditor General is at the center of auditing government accounts, and his name is Mr. Charles Chiwele. So Mr. Charles Chiwele is the principal auditor from the Office of the Auditor General. The last person I'm inviting today is Mr. Maximilian. Mr. Maximilian is from the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services. He is the person in charge of the social cash transfer implementation, and he's leading that particular unit. A round of applause for him as well. So my PC has done a Judas of me. Well, just a minute. Okay, thank you so much. I think my PC had frozen, but we are good now. So thank you so much, everyone, once again, for agreeing to be part of this panel discussion where we are going to discuss on how we can strengthen the social cash transfer program in Zambia. Like everyone said in the morning, our conversation today is not to point blame at who, but to discuss on how best we can strengthen the social cash transfer program in Zambia. And in starting, my first question goes to the Ministry of Community Development and Social Service. So from the presentation that Mr. Chizonde made, it was clear that the study identified weaknesses and vulnerabilities that increase corruption risks in Zambia around the social cash transfer program. So now your question is, what practical measures is the ministry implementing to strengthen beneficiary verification, harmonize payment systems, improve digital inclusion, and safeguard beneficiaries while ensuring timely and accountable delivery of social cash transfer benefits?
Thank you very much, moderator, and good afternoon, everyone. First of all, I wish to again commend TIZ for this wonderful work. I think from our point of view, as PS mentioned, it's a very positive thing that we're able to identify these risks, and we are ready to act on some of these. Of course, in some of them we have made anyways, particularly the question that you have asked. We have tried to address some of the weaknesses, especially in terms of beneficiary records management and the payment processes. One of the things we're talking about doing is really to conduct beneficiary verification. So we have continuous data cleanups. You agree with me that you know the data to do with households is very dynamic. So there are always changes in these households. The household that dies, or somebody has moved out of the household, and so on. So there are always these continuous changes in the composition of these households. So we have this continuous data cleanup to have more accurate information. As we speak, this year we revised our guidelines for social cash transfer, especially that we are now not interacting so much with the beneficiaries because of the digital payments. 91, 92% of the beneficiaries are now on electronic payments. So we are not having this regular interactions with them. So we have now introduced what we call head count. So head count has to take place every 6 months. Head count means that the beneficiary has to present themselves physically to verify their details, and also present themselves as a way of proving life, as a proof of life. So it's an opportunity to actually verify details, and with that we automatically update in our MIS. So as we speak, countrywide, maybe some of you are going ahead that in some districts we are doing head count, where these beneficiaries can't represent themselves. Then the other thing that we have tried to do is to strengthen what we call KYC. KYC basically know your customer. So what the information that is in our MIS and the information that is sitting with our payment service providers, they have to match. So if Maximilian were here, and my NRC is this particular number, is XYZ, those details have to sit in the same format with the Airtel, MTN, or the banks. If there's any mismatch, actually the payments do not go through. If, for instance, well, just Maximilian had been added K with Airtel, that payment will not go through. So these are some of the things that we are trying to do to strengthen the KYC. So make sure that, so we try to sensitize beneficiaries to make sure that the information that is sitting with us and the information that is sitting with the MNOs or the banks are actually the same. So we are trying to strengthen that KYC. And in terms of digital inclusion, we have also tried to go out there and do some digital literacy campaigns across the country. We had here on the presentation that some people are struggling with digital payments. So we're trying to intensify in terms of digital literacy campaigns across. I'm sure you saw also in the media that we have also distributed over 200,000 funds that targeting elderly beneficiaries. This is also part of our digital inclusion agenda to make sure that those without phones, because some of the beneficiaries actually are just having SIM cards, because yes, we've gone digital, but some beneficiaries were actually just having a SIM card, and it's very easy to lose a SIM card. And the ministry recognized that this is a gap in terms of low phone ownership among these beneficiaries. So we have just distributed over 20,000 phones to the beneficiaries, especially on that, and we are going to distribute more with the partnership that we have with Zamtel in the next few months. So this is one of the efforts that we are making to just ensure that we increase in terms of digital literacy campaigns. Maybe just one last point on this, on digital, on deputy system, because this one came out prominently in the findings. So the ministry does not actually choose the deputies for these households. So the deputies are chosen by the family. This is a trustee, a member of the family, or a trustee of the family. So it's not somebody that is imposed on them by the ministry. So they actually choose who is to be their deputy. And with the digital payments now, the money only goes to the head of the house. It does not go to the deputy. So we have tried to address this issue around deputies. Yes, we agree, I think, with the findings. Generally, I agree with the findings to say there were cases where deputies actually charge the head of the household because they are going to collect on their behalf. So that has been cut off in a way that we are now doing. We're now paying payments. We're now conducting payments digitally. So the money goes straight to the beneficiary, and it's up to the family actually, because the phone is supposed to stay with the head of the house. unless the deputy or the head of the house decides to share the PIN and the phone with the deputy. But otherwise, the money and everything sits with the head of the household. The deputy should not have access to that money as it stands. Of course, the 8%, those that are getting from the temple, that may still be happening. So we try to sensitize deputies and the head of the household to make sure that they're not swindled. But sometimes these things get complicated when it comes to the family issues. We want to intervene and say, no, we'll resolve it as a family, and so on. So we are trying to address these deputy issues. But with digital payments, I think that it has been addressed through the 92% of the customer that is receiving the funds through the deputies. Thank you.
Okay, it looks like those are interesting measures that the government has put in place to ensure that the social cash transfer program is strengthened. Now, at the center of this study, corruption risk, is an institution that fights against corruption in Zambia, which is the Anti-Corruption Commission. Allow me to ask them a question. So the study identifies continued payments to deceased beneficiaries as the highest corruption risk. What concrete measures is the ACC taking to detect, investigate, and deter this form of systematic fraud within the social cash transfer program?
Thank you very much. Before I proceed, I just want to echo what Brian said when he was presenting. When we talk about corruption risk, it is not equal to corruption levels. So whatever I'm going to say, it shouldn't be equated to corruption levels, for instance. So that should be clear. So we are talking about the corruption vulnerabilities or risks. If we say it's high, we are not saying the corruption levels are high. That should be clear. So in terms of concrete measures, as we saw from the presentation of that report, it is clear that in terms of vulnerabilities, we have payments to deputies in instances where the beneficiary dies and maybe there is delay in announcing or reporting to the ministry that this person has died. So the continuous payment. So this is a serious issue. So in terms of what we are doing as a commission, not only to address this issue, but many other issues around the social cash transfer and other welfare programs, is continuous sensitization. You can see from our discussion that most of the things are bordering on information asymmetry, people not knowing what needs to be done, and so on. So there is need for heightened sensitization. We are doing this, but I feel it should be heightened more, and it should be more focused on the program that we are talking about. So at the public education of the commission, we are executing this mandate. We want to change the mindsets. Beneficiaries should know that this is meant to alleviate poverty, and therefore if they see anything that doesn't seem to augur well with the requirements and the criteria for somebody to benefit, they should report it to the commission. How does that happen? Knowledge. People need to know. So we are doing that. And I can indicate that we need to actually do more in this regard. Then the other one is conducting snap checks. Though it was 2 years ago when we went in the field to check on the implementation of social cash transfer, we interacted with the CWACs, the SCCs. By the way, I was worried when that presentation was being made. SCC was being mentioned, and I thought the media would pick it as anti-corruption, being part of the implementation structures. It's not SCC as an anti-corruption commission, but the area coordinating committees. So we are not part of the implementation structures, but we just go to monitor by way of conducting these snap checks. 2 years ago, we engaged the ministry. We had a meeting with the management there. The PS was there. Later, we went in the field just to interact with colleagues who are on the ground. Yeah, so snap checks, and we wish to continue doing this. It can be done jointly with other institutions, maybe with Transparency International, other CSOs, and so on, so that we are able to help the system. Then integrity development, that is one of the measures. I wish to mention that the ministry has an integrity committee, and we expect that integrity committee to embed integrity systems within their operating system and the processes for delivering social cash transfer. So the IC is there. We expect the IC to be proactive and address all the possible loopholes for corruption, because this is a proactive approach. So an IC is expected to study the system, see where there could be opportunities for corruption, and provide remedial measures. And this, we work closely with them. So if they need our technical support, we are ever available 24/7. We'll be there to work with the integrity committee. So the integrity committee in the ministry has developed a whistleblower policy. Then they have also developed a gifts and benefits policy to guide the employees so that they don't get gifts which may be disguised, or bribes which may be disguised as gifts, okay? Because they have delivered a good service and the beneficiaries are happy, then the officials want to get something. So basically, those are some of the issues. So integrity development. Then investigation, I'm bringing it as the last one because prevention is the way to go. We need to prevent corruption. Arresting people comes after monies have been wasted. We've had people arrested, prosecuted, convicted, but the money may have not been recovered because they abused it, they used it. And in any case, even if we manage to recover after maybe 5 years, 3 years, it may have no meaning. Somebody may have died already. Somebody that may have used that money at that point may have died and will not recover them, will not bring them back to life. So investigations comes as the last resort. That's why we commend TIZ for this initiative, doing studies like this, so that we close the gap in terms of information. We close the gap, we are equipped with knowledge, we are equipped with information on what the risks are, and then we move in to take preemptive measures to address those issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Indeed, prevention is better than cure. I'm glad you highlighted one thing, which is the integrity committee that sits under the ministry. And I hope we will work together in ensuring that the measures that have been put in place strengthened. So at this point in time, allow me to get back to my colleague who happens to come from an organization which is a LIFT partner, Enso Mwale, from Civil Society for Poverty Reduction. Now, Civil Society for Poverty Reduction has worked in so many districts or communities around the social protection, or rather social cash transfer program. And maybe just to learn from you, and so the challenges, or sorry, the corruption risks that have been presented in this study, some of the things that you encounter in the field. What has been your experience as an organization? Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so thank you so much. Okay, thank you. Yeah, so thank you so much, and good evening. So,
Good afternoon.
sorry, good afternoon. Yeah, so that's a very good question, as we mentioned. And maybe before I respond to the question itself, I would like to commend GIZ for this commendable job that they have done for this assessment, because it then it provides some level of evidence that we can use as civil society as we do our advocacy week. Getting back to the question, yes, I noticed most of the findings that are in this report really resonate with some of the assessments that we have done. So we had conducted an assessment, although it took more of a social accountability approach, which was done in Monze, but as well as Mansa. So some of the commonalities in these assessments is that I noticed that across the districts where the study was being done, there has been instances of delays in terms of payments for the beneficiaries of social cash transfer, which is a commonality that we found. In fact, 74% of the respondents of our assessment indicated that they had at some point rather, experienced some delay in terms of payments of those funds. And then the risk that comes with that is that if such delays continue, they create a breathing room for possible corruption instances. Another aspect is the policy of transitioning from cash payment to mobile payment, which I believe is a good one in trying to ensure that there's transparency, but also in trying to reduce corruption. However, as highlighted by the report, it still comes with its own challenges, which have already been mentioned, especially for the elderly people. I remember having a conversation in Mansa, in Kampemba 1, with an old man who had indicated that since the transitioning from cash payment, they had never received any funds for about 8 months. But then this may also indicate that not necessarily the fact that the funds haven't been transferred, but in certain instances, we found out that some of the beneficiaries may have some dependents or children, whoever has gotten hold of their mobile phones. So in certain instances, they get to withdraw without their knowledge. Then this calls for more sensitization of this transitioning, because the old man didn't even know the transition itself in the first place. And then another issue, I think, which has also come out strongly in the report is an aspect of the grievance redress and redress mechanism. Yeah. So I think a larger proportion of the participants that participated in our assessment did indicate that they were partly aware of channels through which they can lodge in their complaints. Even those that were aware of a proper channel, if asked whether they have done so in an event where they have an issue they feel they should report, they indicated that they could not do it because of the fear of being removed from the program. Then this calls maybe for a more safer system, a more confidential system, which will protect the beneficiaries in an event when they have to report on some of these cases. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Enson. You've raised key concerns that the ministry really has to put into consideration. Now, getting back to the Ministry of Community Development and Social Services, as Mr. Chisonde was presenting, I picked one thing which has to do with prof means test. I don't know if I got that right. But yeah, so my question is in line with the prox means test. Based on how you identify these beneficiaries from ground level, there is a fact that beneficiaries don't get to see who is on the final list of beneficiaries. And the question is that how does the ministry intend to improve transparency in beneficiary selection while protecting beneficiaries' personal information?
Thank you very much. The selection of beneficiaries, or in terms of targeting, I think targeting criteria is very, very clear and transparent. And I'm glad that the findings from this study brought in very, very good results around high participation of the community. So to start with, those categories that we talk about, the elderly, chronically ill and palliative care, the persons with disabilities, child-headed households, and female-headed households, those 5 categories. Those, to start with, they're just primary qualifiers. So it doesn't mean that anybody who's above 60 years would actually qualify on social cash transfer. No, those are just primary qualifiers. The second criteria that we actually go into is basically collecting the social economic indicators. We can, him and myself can be above 60 years, but what will differentiate us, who's going to get on the program, is these socio-economic indicators, the living conditions in his home and my home. If there are socio-economic indicators that are collected by enumerators, these socio-economic indicators are the ones that actually inform the decision to on who's poor and who's not. So we, of course, the other qualifying point is that the person should be from that area should be residing in that area for at least 6 months. That's the residence test. So now, these socioeconomic indicators are the ones that assist us to scientifically determine who's poor and who's not. So it's not about me or another person deciding who gets on the program. So once we collect these socioeconomic indicators, for instance, how many times does this household have meals? How many cows do they have? How many chickens do they have? How many assets around assets and other issues around external support that they receive, other programs that they are on? It's these socio-economic indicators that are put into the system. We have computerized all this system and all this process. We input these indicators in the system, and it's a system that runs what we are calling now the PMT, the prox means test. The prox means test is basically trying to target now the most vulnerable among those that have come. One thing I didn't mention is that the first stage basically is to announce that we're registering for social cash transfer. Whoever feels that they qualify under these 5 categories should come forward. So we pull them out of their homes. So there's self-registration in the first place. But later on, we go into their homes now to collect these socioeconomic indicators. Once we collect these socioeconomic indicators, these are the ones now that will tell us to say, yes, you brought yourself forward to say, I want to do social cash transfer. But our socioeconomic indicators that we collected from your home are showing us that you're not poor or you are poor. So it's that system that process that actually objectively determines who's poor and who's not. In many countries, this has been used to determine who's poor and who's not. So that it's not up to the DC, it's not up to the town clerk, it's not up to the district social welfare officer to determine who gets on the program and who's not. We use the scientific process. And now, in that process, there are 2 stages that are very important. Community validation. There are 2 community validation that takes place, where we announce the names of beneficiaries. First of all, once we do that self-registration, we come up with a list of potential beneficiaries. And we subject that list to the community to say, okay, these came to register themselves. Did everyone register? We announce the names actually at a community meeting and say, these came to register. Did everyone come to register? If somebody didn't register at that point, they are given an opportunity to register. Okay, then now we go into collection of socioeconomic indicators. Once we collect the socioeconomic indicators, we now go to the next stage of running the PMT, the prox means test. Once we run that PMT, when it gives us results of those that are poor, according to the system, we again subject that list to another second community validation. We go again to the community and announce the names to say so and so has qualified. Do you think one of the things we try to do through that is to make sure that we validate it, we have a buy-in from the community, and also they tell us if on the list there's a person who's not from there, they will tell us that name, we do not know it, it's not from here, or that person is not poor. That's it, they have cows, they have cars. Why have they been on the program? Why did you include them on the program? So that is community participation. I think that's why we scored very high in terms of community participation, because these meetings are very important. So there's a transparent way of selecting beneficiaries. We subject it to those community validations that are very important for us to actually have a community validation. And if there's any grievance, anybody that feels that they should have been included, they can raise their hand at that meeting and say, why have you left me out of the program? And we take note of those and so on and so forth. If there's somebody that actually says this person has been included, wrongly included on the program, we take note of those. So that's the transparent way of selecting. I heard from Bright's presentation that there are difficulties or one of the limitations was that they couldn't access the beneficiaries. But otherwise, if you came to the ministry and followed through the process of accessing this list, there's a transparent way of sharing this. Of course, within the Data Protection Act, we are allowed to share as long as we have the data agreement, data sharing agreement signed with you. We can actually share a list of beneficiaries in a specific area. We can actually give you the list to say in Shangongo, these are the beneficiaries that are are selected in that place. So we all in all, in terms of sharing information, sharing also on the program and who's not, we are willing to do that as a ministry, as long as we walk into our office and tell us for the purpose of the data, and we'll guide in terms of what fields, what personal data we can actually share. We can tell you who's on the program and who's not.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. I'm glad the ministry is willing and accommodative in terms of giving out information on who is on the beneficiary list. Now, allow me to move to Anti-Corruption Commission. We are talking about the fight against corruption or the prevention of corruption before it actually occurs. Now, from Brian's presentation, it was reported that in certain communities, beneficiaries were asked to pay as little as 20 kwacha to be included on the list. How is ACC working hand in hand with the ministry, especially in the integrity committee, to ensure that this vice is put to an end?
Thank you, Gift. Before I respond to the question, I wish to mention that corruption is corruption regardless of the amount. I know people could be looking at a 20 kwacha here and think that why bother to maybe look at a matter involving a 20 kwacha. What I believe is that, and that's what we believe as a commission, that it doesn't matter the value for as long as somebody is asking for a certain amount to be paid for them to deliver a service that is supposed to be free, it amounts to corruption. So I mentioned the aspect of sensitization. I think that is one of the things that we are doing. We have been sensitizing members of the public, and even as we are speaking, people are being sensitized that paying or a public officer, anybody standing in a public office asking for a payment, that is solicitation according to the Act, the Anti-Corruption Act. It's a solicitation. So anybody soliciting, that is corruption. So we've been sensitizing people that when they come across such, they should report. But what happens is that when there is a win-win situation in this case where the one asking is given a 20 kwacha and they include that person on the list, both of them are happy. You will not get to learn about the transaction. Only maybe when a study is being done like this, that's when people begin to open up. Maybe because they were not happy that somebody got a 20 kwacha from them. But where there is a win-win situation, in theory, I'll call it that way, when both parties are happy, you not get to hear about it. So we are sensitizing people, conscientizing them so that they report no matter what happens. And one thing that people may not know is that sometimes officials will just play on their psychology. They know that this person qualifies and they are supposed to be on the list. They'll tell them that, no, for you to be put there, you need to pay. And this person pays. Meanwhile, they qualify to be there. So through the Integrity Committee, well, we haven't really collaborated much in terms of going in the field with the Integrity Committee to do sensitization, but it's one area that we can leverage. We work with the IC to go in the field, talk to the beneficiaries, as well as the public officials, the CWACs, and the SECs, so that we ensure that there is transparency, there is no solicitation for bribes in the implementation of the program. Thank you, Gift.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. At this point in time, allow me to move my attention to the Office of the Auditor General. I'm sure you're wondering, they've been quiet from the beginning. It's because their role is quite different and unique. Auditor General's Office, being an institution that is mandated to audit public accounts, what is your take in line with the conversation that we are having today, and what recommendation based on the audit reports that you have done, but also the experience of the institution? So what will be your recommendation to the Ministry of Community Development, but also to the Anti-Corruption Commission, so that your work is not made difficult?
Thank you so much, Director of our program.
First of all, on behalf of the Auditor General, I would like to take this opportunity to sincerely thank Transparency International Zambia for extending the invitation to the Office of the Auditor General to be part of this very important topic, corruption risks assessment on the implementation of the social transfer program in Zambia in relation to the study which you had conducted. Well, thank you so much for that question. Looking at the first question, which has to do with the continued payments to the deputies of the deceased house beneficiaries. First of all, I want to draw attention to the guideline, and before that, I want to mention that basically we follow the international auditing standards as we conduct our audit, where we look at the criteria. Then from there, we look at what may have gone wrong, which is the condition, and thereafter we identify the risks and the recommendations arising from the risks that were identified. So one of the risk factors, as indicated earlier, I also in the studies that continued payment to deputies of deceased beneficiaries. Now, when you look at the social cash transfer guidelines of 2018, guideline number 4.2, it provides guidance on how to go about when the beneficiary has died, the main beneficiary. And so, according to the guideline, the beneficiary who has died, he continues to be on the register, or rather on the program, for the period of, I think, the 3 bi-monthly cycles. And when Mr. Wada is here to correct me if but I think that's the position. Yeah, after that's 3 bi-monthly cycles, that is after a period of 6 months. So within that period, the deputy of that deceased beneficiary will continue, getting the transfer, the funds on behalf of the deceased. Mind you, that deceased, the beneficiary, may have the family, okay? And so from the audit perspective, we look at the criteria. So that in that case, that is the criteria, social transfer guidelines number 4.2 of 2018 in relation to the deceased beneficiary. So the recommendation from the audit perspective would be that maybe the ministry should look at the period in which the assessment can be done, because they cannot just remove that particular deceased beneficiary on the register before they could actually carry out an assessment and establish whether the families of the living families of the deceased beneficiaries, their economic status is bad, such that maybe they depended so much on the main beneficiary to provide support. So if they do that assessment and discover that the families of those deceased beneficiaries, they are vulnerable, then they can put one of them to become the main beneficiary to replace the deceased beneficiary for that particular household. But in a situation whereby they find that, the families of the deceased beneficiaries, they are not really that vulnerable, then they can remove those deceased beneficiaries from the program, so that they give an opportunity to other vulnerable, members of the communities who are vulnerable to benefit on the program. So the recommendation is obviously to look at the period, so that an assessment can be done to establish whether the household of the deceased beneficiary still maybe they cannot survive, then they quickly recommend and replace within the family household. If not, then they replace that deceased beneficiary with other potential vulnerable members of the communities who could benefit from the program. Regarding, I think another aspect is to also do the verification, and before they do the verification of these beneficiaries, obviously they have to look at the register. The person who is doing the updating of this register of beneficiaries should not be the same person who is actually doing the verification. At the same time, the person who's preparing the payment list or the payroll should also be the different person. Therefore, there should be adequate segregation of duties. When you look at the payment process, the register, there should be an independent person and social welfare officer updating the register. Then the person who should now verify that should be another person, maybe the senior social welfare officer, and then finally the person who approves that payment list and subsequent payments to be made to the respective, pay point managers if they are paying using the rural platform, and then if they are paying through the digital payment through the payments service providers such as the Airtel, Zona, MTN, and so on and so forth.
Thank you very much, Sam. At this point in time, allow me to now move to the audience. In case you have any question, any contribution, I think this. Okay, thank you. So this is the time that we ask the questions that we have. So the floor is open. I'll take 4 hands, 2 females, 2 males. Questions? Do we have questions? Going 1, going 2, going 3. Okay, it's like we do not have questions. In concluding, allow me to direct this question to CSPR. Based on your work that you do around social protection, what key recommendation are you giving to the ministry so that if they go back, they'll know to say, this is what civil society for poverty reduction on behalf of other civil society organizations is recommending?
Okay, thank you so much for granting us the opportunity to put forward some of the recommendations. So based off the challenges that have been highlighted in the report, based off other challenges that we have discussed in this meeting, one of the key recommendations we might want to put forward is to obviously enhance the provision of clear, accessible information, which should be in local language so that it's easily accessible by community members in different parts of the country. So this information should clearly outline, obviously, the eligibility criteria around the program, the targeting mechanisms, but also ensure that there's information readily available on how these beneficiaries can lodge in their complaints should they have any grievances. Another issue is that we have these structures that have been established to provide oversight on how the program is being run. The CWACs, the area coordinating committees, we have WDCs, which I feel there's need for continued capacity building in terms of guidelines, but also ethics, maybe also monitoring, but also on the dangers of corruption and safe reporting mechanisms should there be an issue that they would want to report. I think another issue would be us as civil society also complementing government effort by trying to capacitate these communities with building their capacity so that they are able to independently participate in monitoring the social cash transfer program through social audits, community scorecard, but also in doing public expenditure tracking. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Benson, for that. To Anti-Corruption Commission in the Office of the Auditor General, under one sentence, if you were to improve the social cash transfer, or rather, let me ask it this way, what key recommendation are you issuing to government that they should prioritize in order to strengthen the social cash transfer program in Zambia? Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much. Obviously, I'll speak from audit perspective. The recommendation that our report generates, they arise from the findings, and then like these, some of the findings from this report, for example, is to ensure that the controls surrounding segregation of duties are enhanced. Like I indicated earlier on, the person who is updating the register of beneficiary should not be the same person who is going to do the verification of the beneficiaries, and the person who is going to initiate the payment should also not be the same person. There should be adequate segregation of duties in the entire process, from the registration point up to the paying point of making payment to the beneficiaries, where they have to confirm that only eligible beneficiaries are receiving the social cash transfer funds. Thank you.
Okay, I had a number of recommendations, but we'll stick to the guidance. So what we want to recommend to cure the issue of ghost beneficiaries, if that is to happen, and also the aspect of people that are deceased still appearing on the lists. Maybe it's for the ministry to try and explore the aspect of connecting with other systems. In IT language, they say system interoperability. So trying to see if the records maybe at national registration, I don't know if they are digital, to see if the systems are able to speak to each other, so that if somebody dies, of course, the hospitals as well communicates that information where somebody has died, and the systems are able to pick and highlight those that have died, so that questions now can be asked. I know there is a system that is being used right now where the CWACs will indicate that somebody has died, but if they choose not to do that, the ministry may not know. So through this process, I think the ministry is able to pick it and ask questions to the people on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So now in conclusion, Minister of Community Development, the ball is in your hands. And based on the conversation that we have had today, what key system reform are you prioritizing in order to strengthen the social cash transfer program? And maybe you can give us a roadmap on how this will go. Thank you.
you very much. Before I go into answering your question, I would like to, I know there was a question in there from the audience around sustainability. I just want to mention that, or to put it on record, that the social cash transfer budget is heavily funded by government. I know that some people think that it's dollar funded, but 88% of the budget, for instance, this year, 88% of the budget is coming from government. So you can already see in terms of commitment towards fully funding the social cash transfers. Of course, we have other cooperative partners like the World Bank that is funding the 12%, World Bank and other cooperative partners that are funding the 12%. So I just wanted to put that on record. And in terms of systems, like you have asked, I think I'm glad that the SEC has brought in a very important point there on the interoperability of systems. I think we are working on what we call a social registry. The social registry is a central database where all these systems, whether it's PC, FSP, social cash transfer, will be sitting in one place. So connected to national range or any other health databases and so on. I think as a country we are moving towards that, having a central database so that we are able to tell, for instance, who's benefiting from what program, how many programs is this person actually benefiting from. We want these systems to be speaking to each other, and the ministry, of course, through cabinet's approval, is working around implementing the social registry. And our target, of course, is that by the first quarter of 2027, this system comes into place. I think it will assist us quite a lot in terms of tracking some of the beneficiaries, giving updating records. I think updating beneficiary records has come out as a very important finding from this study. It's one of the things that we're trying to see how we can also be helped by other systems in terms of updating these records. So yes, that interoperability of systems is coming, and we are working around improving that. Of course, there are other things that we are doing within the ministry. I think one thing about this program is that it's very dynamic. It keeps on changing. And what we're talking about today may not be excited because next month. Once we hear some of these feedback that we have gotten today, we go back to our offices and sit down. Say, how can we address this deputy system, for instance? How can we address the issue around reverse replacement mechanism? And we change something about it. So we keep on evolving. I think what the general attests that when they audit us year in, year out, where we were 2 years, 3 years ago, that's not where we are now. I think there are a lot of internal controls that have been introduced. We have, for instance, at the ministry now, we have a chief risk officer that has been placed in the ministry to help us actually track some of these risks. So as you have put in this study, as you have presented some of these risks will find themselves in our risk registers at district level, at provincial level, and the national level. So we'll be tracking most of these risks through that system. So it evolves every time, and we are, I think, determined in terms of making it more perfect. Of course, it might not be perfect, but closer to that. So we are determined to take up most of these recommendations, and thanks for these recommendations from SEC, CSPR, and also Auditor General. We take that on board. And see how we can actually improve in terms of program performance and overall implementation. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Can we clap for them, please? Thank you very much. You have been a very good audience, and to the panelists, I think you've done justice to today's program. Thank you very much once again. At this point in time, allow me to call upon Madam Leah to close for us.
Thank you so much, Naomi. I'm so excited when I see young people taking up responsibility, and I think that was a well-moderated panel discussion. Gift, thank you so much. Let's clap for her. Yeah, it's really good. And I was just saying in the morning to say I think the development space is really getting crowded. We must be exiting Morris. We should be. Thank you so much to our panelists. You may take your seats. I'm surprised that there were no questions from the audience. Did we not have questions? I was in a meeting the other day. I mean, everybody's complaining about CDF and talking about CDF implementation and how are people selected? I asked the question, how many in this room are members of WDC? I'll ask that question here again. How many of us are members of WDC? What development committees? Or maybe in your constituencies, they're not there. They are rich constituencies. They're not, they're there, but we're not members. But when we see allocations, we see decisions being made, we're the first ones to say, how are people selected? How are projects being decided? So the government has opened up most of their space, as we heard. But I think it's up to us now to organize and be able to participate and strengthen those spaces. And thank you so much to the Ministry of Community Development for being magnanimous and say we received the findings very well and showing commitment. I think the government through the PS said they are committed to addressing the findings in the report. So I think that is really good. Let's also then give an applause, a hand of, we clap for the panelists again, and then we invite our programs officer from the Transparency International Zambia. I think I did earlier on say that there's a lot of work that goes into an event such as this. So we had Nyambe, who is a project officer. We now have the program officer to come and give us closing remarks. And perhaps he might also speak to next steps. And then we can all go and have our lunch. He's going to pray for us as well, for the food, don't worry.
So good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, it has been a long day with a lot of discussions. And I think among the things that we are picking from these discussions is the need for collaboration. We are very happy to hear, especially the Ministry of Community Development opening up in terms of collaborating with various CSOs, providing the information so that we are able to support the implementation of the social cash transfer in terms of enhancing accountability and transparency. So thank you very much to the ministry for that kind of invitation. For us, I think part of the way forward, being an anti-corruption champion, is to work through the Ministry Integrity Committee in collaboration with the Integrity Committee, so that we are able to strategize now going forward how best we enhance, the systems, but also going beyond that is also to do a lot of sensitization, as Anti-Corruption Commission has mentioned, so that our communities, our beneficiaries are aware, one, of the grievance channels, two, are aware where to report when they encounter corruption, and those are important aspects that are very vital for the continuation of the program in a transparent and accountable manner. So this is what we are able to do. I'm sure, given a chance, all of you organizations here would have a role to play, and we can count on your support in picking up something that you are able to run with. Having said that, wouldn't want to go a lot more. We're going to end, but before that, just to thank all of you passionately for your participation. for your contributions, for the discussions that we've had. Thank you very much to our able Master of Ceremony for driving this discussion, all the staff that have worked so hard in having this day. Yeah, I think we have received the lunch coupons. Please, unless you are fasting, please go down and have your lunch. For the journalists, the media team, please see Zanji to take care of you. Yeah, I think those are the final announcements. May I ask my boss to give the final prayer so that he also recognizes that there is food, so that it is blessed, even though it's from a distance. Mr. Bright, it is on.
All right, shall we pray? Gracious Father, God, thank you for this day. Thank you for everything that we have been able to go through. Thank you for the lessons we have learned and every plan that we have put in place. I want to commit the food now into your hands. I pray that you bless it and sanctify it as you partake of it. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
Yes.
At the same place? Okay, we can take this or this. Why not if I take? So can we have a group photo somewhere here? Yeah. Please come for a group photo.
Father, what happened to us? I read that we used to be richer than China and Korea. We used to have better roads, and we used to be a marvel among many nations.
Our world is dying, my son. We have all folded our arms and have accepted that the injustices going on in this country are okay, as long as they do not affect us. Political corruption, theft by public servants, collusion, patronage, bribery, extortion, you can name them. They have all come to stay.
Does it mean that my future is doomed because of you, Father and late Mother? Why did you just sit and watch? Can't you do something?
If I told you I tried. But your aunties stopped me. CSOs, more so, your own grandparents, government, refused the status quo and said I was politicking. Your cousins tried to join me, the law enforcement agencies, but your grandparents told them if they did, then they shouldn't come back to their house, as they will be going against their wishes. What should I have done, my son?
Papa, hope has a place in a loveless world. We can still change this picture before the future generation puts a blame on me as their president. I do not want to inherit a broke state, an ungovernable society. I will preach integrity, integrity, and integrity.
You are brave, my son. Please don't be arrested. I only have you alone, huh?
Don't worry, Father. I have friends who can help me. My best friend, TIZ. My teammates, CUTS, CTPD, CSPR, JCTR, NGOCC, Gears, Wilsa, Action Ed, ACA, and many more. My Captain Media. They will speak for me, and I know I can count on them, so that we are strong. We can convince our grandparents to see the bigger picture. We are one, and together we can build a Zambia anchored on citizens and institutions of integrity. I know those watching this are more than willing to help. It's not too late to fight corruption. I will be different, and so should you. Thanks to my careers teacher, SIDA, for giving me the strength to talk to my mother, the people of Zambia.
This message is brought to you by Transparency International Zambia, TIZ, in partnership with the Swedish International Development Cooperation Agency, SIDA.